as he stood at the microphone that day at Emory University, the rowdy stood quiet, grew still. And then Thompson began to talk about his faith. Simple words, speaking about what his parents had taught him as a child growing up in the church. Thompson said, they taught me, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The students gathered that day were amazed at these simple words of Jesus, words from Sunday school, words from worship, words of Christian testimony. And when he finished speaking, they leapt to their feet and gave him a standing ovation. I think Thompson's words that day had so much weight. They had the impact they did because they were words of faith that were born out in a life of doing, born out in action and deeds. You see, here was a man, and these young people picked that up. Here was a man who didn't just talk the talk. He actually walked the walk. He heard the stories of Jesus, the faith he learned as a child, and then he put it into practice in the life he lived. Even when doing so was not necessarily the most popular thing to do or the most expedient thing to do. Now, as Methodists, we're not real big on the whole evangelism thing, right? I mean, that's not something we're good at. It's a lot easier for us to go out and build a wheelchair ramp than it is to tell somebody about Jesus, right? I mean, that's just who we are, right? So for some of us, it's a lot easier to walk the walk than to talk the talk. We're better at doing for others than sharing with others about God. And we cringe. We cringe when we hear the E word, evangelism. We're much more comfortable being a mission. It's easy for us to talk about God at church because we're with other people who think the way we do. But it's hard when we step outside these doors to talk about our faith, does it not? I mean, I'm not the only one, right? Right. Someone said that many Christians would sooner talk about sex than God. I don't know. I think sometimes we're afraid to be pushy. We don't want to offend somebody else. We certainly don't want to be manipulative. We've seen that happen in God. Sometimes we just don't know what to say. Sometimes we're afraid that we'll be rejected, like Jesus was rejected in his hometown. But this passage from Mark insists that in spite of the potential for rejection or anxiety or embarrassment, that telling the story with words as well as with deeds is part of the claim that Christ lays upon his disciples, even as uncomfortable as that may make us. A woman worked as a clerk in a bookstore. One morning, as she arrived for work, she encountered a man dressed as a Hasidic Jew. Now, we don't have a lot of Hasidic Jews in Texas, but I think you probably know how recognizable they are. You've seen them on TV. They're ones with the heavy beards and the curls. And anyway, so they're pretty distinguishable. You know a Hasidic Jew when you encounter them. Anyway, so she got there that morning, and outside the bookstore was a Hasidic Jew. And after she'd opened up and turned the lights on, she turned and she asked him if he needed any help. Yes, he answered softly. I'd like to know more about Jesus. Well, she was kind of nonplussed. She said, okay, well, there's some books up on the, let me show you. So he takes him upstairs, and there's a whole section of books on religion and a particular section on Jesus. He said, here's everything you need to know about Jesus. And she turns to head back downstairs to go about her day. And before she could get to the stairwell, he says, no, wait, stop. Don't show me any more books about Jesus. I want you to tell me what you believe. My Episcopal soul shivered. That could be Methodist, Presbyterian, fill in the blank. She happened to be Episcopal. My Episcopal soul shivered. But she said, I took a big gulp and I told him everything about Jesus. Please. It's something we do both with word and with deed. That's what Jesus did, and that's what Jesus calls us to do as well. Evangelism It's really not a four-letter word. It's not something we have to be afraid of. And it's not something we do so that we can grow our church. Hopefully that would be a nice byproduct of it, but that's not why we do evangelism. And it's really not in order to get other people to believe exactly as we do. Evangelism is simply telling others about the God who has come to me so much to us. God has made a difference in our lives. God in Christ has made a difference in our lives. And we want others to know that same God as well. We're simply called to speak truth in love from the heart, in our own words. There's not a right way or a wrong way to do it. We are called simply to be faithful in our witness. And then the rest is up to God. You know, sometimes I know in a small church like ours, we get discouraged. Lots of hours have gone into putting together Vacation Bible School to start next week. And we never know if we'll have 10 kids or 40 kids or 50 kids. Laura does a great job year in and year out putting it together, and lots of workers have helped with her. And sometimes, you know, you think, why? Why do we do this? Why do we sometimes one year we had as many adults working as we had kids who showed up. We had a good time though, right? Right. But sometimes you wonder, why do we do this? Why do we go to all this time? Why do we go to all this money, this expense? And we don't even know if anybody's going to show up. We do it because that's what Jesus calls us to do. And we never know what one life might be changed because they were introduced to a God of grace, Jesus the Christ, through something we did or said that we. Again, we just have to be faithful. The rest is up to God. What God does with that, the work God does, the difference He makes, is up to Him. And I think, again, that's another part of what this passage speaks to so well. We're not responsible for the response we get to the ministries we offer in Christ's name. Only our own faithfulness. So with assurance, I hope, we can witness boldly and faithfully, both in word and in deed, two together, ministering to the whole persons God places in our path. To me, that's evangelism at its finest, mission at its best, ministry, the bringing to two together of those truths. That is the Great Commission to which Jesus calls each of us. Our call to discipleship this morning is turnaround. As always, if you are here and wish to unite with this church family by either profession or faith in Jesus as Christ or transferring your membership from another Christian body, you're invited to come forward as we stand and sing, but also it is an invitation once again for us to recommit our individual selves to our discipleship. Let us stand as we sing.
Tell you what, you gotta be careful in this VBS business. You don't know what kind of folks are gonna get dragged in. The first ever engagement I had with church at all was with the VBS. My cousins, I was staying with my grandma, and they said, "Why don't you come with us to VBS?" And I got there and I thought, "This is a church thing?" And then they said, "Well, if you memorize these Bible verses and memorize most of them, you'll get candy." And I thought, well, I like winning things, so this could be a place for me. You know, and it took a lot of turns after that, but that was actually the first place I ever went into a church now. And then this is the accident that happened. Yeah, so it's a great thing, I think. And this song, you know, no matter how low you get, no matter how bad it seems, there's always a way back. So if that's something that makes you feel enthusiastic about your opportunity to be here, then sing it that way. Young man on the side of the road, lost and beat up with nowhere to go. Sounds like a hangover from days ago. He does what he can to survive. Single mom with a dead-end job, 90-hour week just to keep what she's got. But the bills add up and now she's caught. She does what she can to survive. Well, let me say that love won't take away the pain, but don't be afraid, 'cause it will never walk away. If you're scared that you don't matter, if you're lost and need to be found, if you're looking for a savior, all you gotta do is turn around. Some turn to a bottle, some turn to a drug, some turn to another's arms, but it seems like it's never enough. Well, I won't say that you will never fail again, but there is grace to wash away your every sin. If you're scared that you don't matter, if you're lost and need to be found, if you're looking for a savior, all you gotta do is turn around. No one listens to you anymore, and your heart has broken down. You don't need to move, others come to you. All you gotta do is turn around. All you gotta do is turn around. Turn around. You don't have to take a broken road. You can turn around and come back home. You don't have to take a broken road. You can turn around and come back home. La la la, la la la, la la la. You don't have to take a broken road. You can turn around and come back home. If you're scared that you don't matter, if you're lost and need to be found, if you're looking for a savior, all you gotta do is turn around. No one listens to you anymore, and your heart has broken down. You don't need to move, I'll come to you. All you gotta do is turn around. All you gotta do is turn around. All you gotta do is turn around.
So not to harp on BBS, I just want to say this. You know, BBS, like just said, it's a very, you never know. That might be someone's first introduction to Christ. Invite your neighbors, invite your friends, invite your relatives. Assure them, we're not here to convert their children. We're not here to give an altar call. We're not here to make them a member of our church. All we want to do is for them to come and experience God's love. We then lead whatever seed is planted up to God. It's a safe place to introduce someone to Christ, to the church. Bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring your family members, and come and be a part of it. It's a great week. We have an awesome group of youth and adults who put this on every year. We have as much fun as the kids. I think we're all just big kids at heart. But it's an opportunity to introduce someone to Christ in a very low-key, non-threatening, non-pressured way. Take advantage of that. Now, one more question. Has God made a difference in your life? Has a relationship with Christ changed who you are? If that's the case, share that. You don't have to be offensive. You don't have to be pushy. You don't have to try to make somebody else just like you. Just share from your heart, naturally what comes. God, Christ, church makes a difference in my life. come forward and share a lot of you.
The time has come, oh Lord, for us to leave this place. Guide us and protect us and lead us in thy grace. Wherever life may take us as we go our separate ways, help us share with others the things we share today. May the peace of God the Father and the love of Christ His Son guide us in the days ahead and strengthen us each one. May the blessings of the Spirit fill us from within. God bless us and return us to this fellowship once again.
Yeah.